funny. It's now gotten to a point we have to laugh at it. Caitlin Clark finished 9th in player voting. In fact, she finished behind one of her own teammates in player voting for the All-Star game. The pettiness has no bounds. But it's interesting. For years, the WNBA players were pointing fingers. They were saying people are sexist, the media is sexist, we're not being promoted, we're underappreciated. And then they get the golden goose, and they don't like what it looks like. Iowa girl, Indiana girl. Well, who knows, and I've said this for years, when the wave hits, ride it. You don't know what it looks like.
What happens when Caitlin Clark secures a $100 million Nike bag and half the WNBA looks like they just bit into a lemon? Colin Cowherd's out here tossing race grenades like it's dodgeball. The league's melting down, teammates side-eyeing, and Twitter's on fire. Is this jealousy, strategy, or straight-up racial chaos? Oh, it's spicy. Stick around because this isn't just basketball drama. It's a full-blown soap opera with sneakers, shade, and Cowherd turning up the volume to maximum petty.
Colin Cowherd is making a point to talk about the WNBA again, and he makes a point now to talk about Caitlin Clark. This kind of thing, though, should make Kathy Engelbert cringe, because when a liberal guy like Colin Cowherd says what he says, but there's one little word he drops in there that sort of confirms everything we've been saying.
When Caitlin Clark bagged that $100 million Nike deal, the WNBA didn't just blink, it broke out in hives. Somewhere between the signature shoe announcement and the confetti cannon of online praise, a thick cloud of awkward silence rolled in. You could practically hear the sound of passive-aggressive scrolling echoing through the league's locker rooms.
We've got the potential value of the Nike signature shoe for Caitlin Clark and what that is looking like from an all-time standpoint, a money standpoint, and it's a big number. All right, we know that shoe's coming, and it's going to be a big deal, and they're going to sell a lot of it. And this gentleman that they're talking to in this makes a point to say, this thing's not going to just be a big seller in the WNBA. It's going to be a big seller across all of basketball. That's going to be women's, men's, college, and the NBA.
Because nothing says team spirit like dead-eye glares from the veterans and subtweets more cryptic than a Da Vinci Code riddle. One player started liking tweets about earning your stripes. Another reposted a clip about real hoopers not needing hype. And the rest? Oh, they suddenly developed a case of selective amnesia anytime someone brought up Caitlin's name.
She's signing an 8-year, $28 million Nike deal, but for some people it caused controversy since they're arguing that there are other WNBA players already in the league who don't even have a deal like that. So just in general, what do you guys think about the discourse between that? And then what do you guys think of the major deal that she is receiving?
Yeah, I think anyone's upset with Caitlin Clark's deal doesn't understand the publicity that's on the line here. When you think of being in front of a national camera for 36 games, almost back to back, that type of promotion, you would have to pay top dollar for it.
The face of women's basketball just cashed out harder than an NBA rookie in Vegas, and all the WNBA managed to do was collectively side-eye her into next week. Jealousy? Maybe. Ego bruised by a Midwest sharpshooter with an 8th grade teacher vibe? Probably. But then, just when the shade was getting thick enough to block out the sun, in waltzes, Colin Cowherd with a flamethrower, shouting what everyone was tiptoeing around.
And this thing was chatty in the second quarter. It was chatty. They've got history. It was trash talking. And then in the third quarter, Sheldon poked her in the eye again. This is something we see all the time. They were on each other. They were talking. It was trashy. The superstar like MJ, unstoppable, poke her in the eye, and that's a flagrant foul, and it should have been a flagrant foul. And then Marina Mabry, this is inappropriate, came over, knocked her over. Many thought she should have been thrown out of the game. Well, she didn't get a technical. It's a little bad boys Pistons with MJ. For the record, Caitlin Clark got up. She wasn't hurt. She did more trash talking. She hit more threes. She remained remarkable, just like all the great. If you respect women, stop pandering. She's tough. She's feisty.
Oh yes, he went there. He basically lit the fuse, kicked back, and watched the WNBA implode from a safe distance. His take? That this whole frosty reception to Caitlyn wasn't just about clout or resentment. Nope, it had undertones, loud ones, and not the musical kind. He suggested the Backlash had a racial slant, and suddenly the internet lit up like a Christmas tree doused in gasoline. People were either cheering, cringing, or clutching their pearls so hard they cracked. Because when a white player gets the bag, the shoe, the attention, and the cover stories and somehow becomes the problem, you have to ask, what exactly are we mad at? Let's rewind a bit. Caitlin Clark didn't stumble into greatness by accident. She didn't win a Twitter poll or get promoted by vibes. She shattered records, dragged Iowa to 2 national championship games, and boosted viewership numbers that had been on life support since the Obama administration. The only thing more consistent than her jump shot is her ability to make middle-aged men suddenly care about women's basketball. And then Nike stepped in. Not with a contract, with a cannonball. $100 million. A signature shoe, a throne, a crown, and a coronation. In a league where most players still fly commercial and split hotel rooms, Caitlyn just got offered the equivalent of a private jet and a 4-season suite.
Says what he says, but there's one little word he drops in there that sort of confirms everything we've been saying. All right? It's pettiness, it's jealousy, and there's a racial component to the hate that Caitlin Clark is taking. And, of course, he's talking about the embarrassment that is the players in the WNBA voting Caitlin Clark as the 9th best guard, not player, guard in the league. It's laughable. It makes these players look ignorant, low IQ, jealous, petty, racist, you name it. I mean, they can run the gauntlet. We could just break it down to they're just a bunch of total unlikable assholes.
It wasn't just a deal, it was a statement. Nike didn't whisper her name, they screamed it from the rooftops while throwing money like confetti at a billionaire's birthday party. And instead of applause from her new peers, Caitlyn got the emotional equivalent of a cold shoulder and a lukewarm press release. Some players practically choked on their gum when asked about her. Others smirked, side-eyed, or suddenly remembered they had somewhere else to be. Because God forbid someone shows up to the league with buzz, fans, and an actual following that wasn't manufactured in a PR lab. So Cowherd, ever the pot stirrer, tosses out the nuclear option. Maybe the resentment isn't just because Caitlyn is popular. Maybe it's because she's white. And suddenly, the WNBA finds itself in a pickle jar of uncomfortable truths. Let's talk about those truths, shall we? The WNBA has long been dominated by incredible black athletes, legends, icons, and defensive walls and sneakers, but for decades they've played in a league that the mainstream barely noticed. Suddenly, Caitlyn shows up, and the media behaves like they discovered basketball yesterday. Is it fair? Is it reality? Absolutely.
WNBA television ratings down more than 50%. We should probably do a study on that. I'm not sure why that would be. Wait. Since Caitlin Clark's injury, ladies of the WNBA, she is the rising tide. She is essentially the sun at the beach. If she's not out, nobody else is. She equals ratings, revenue, and relevance, and those 3 things the WNBA is dying for. 55%. That's Jordan leaving the NBA. This is kind of unprecedented territory. It's time to get over the angst. Like, she's changed the league.
Caitlyn is the walking, dribbling embodiment of every marketable checkbox that corporate America loves. Clean image, fan-friendly, highlight machine, and she can handle a post-game presser like a press secretary. That doesn't make her better, but it does make her a product. Nike didn't choose her because she was the best. They chose her because she sells. Full stop. And in a league desperate for eyeballs, that matters more than who boxed out who in 2020. But rather than confronting that corporate imbalance head-on, the frustration has morphed into something murkier, something that Cowherd just pulled into the spotlight with a floodlight and a foghorn. He argues that race is the elephant in the locker room, that if Caitlin Clark looked like Cheryl Swoops, this coronation might have looked a lot more like probation. He says the league is grappling not just with a rising star, but with what it says about who gets elevated, who gets celebrated, and who gets sidelined. He might be stirring the pot, but it ain't empty.
I have to admit, I did not see these players fighting her in the potential success of the entire league. They're fighting the success of the league. They're mad because it's not them. They're mad because it's not a lesbian. They're mad because it's not a black woman. They're angry. And everybody can see how absurd it looks.
Because ask yourself, if Aja Wilson had received this same deal, would the backlash be this icy? Would fans and fellow players dissect every missed shot and blame her for global warming? Or would the story be about perseverance and the long overdue recognition of a champion? Instead, Clark is being treated like she skipped the line at the DMV and walked out with everyone else's license. And no one's asking how she did it. They're just mad she did. Add in social media where nuance goes to die, and suddenly Clark is either a savior or a symptom. Nothing in between. There are camps forming like it's the Hunger Games. You're either Team Caitlyn or Team She Ain't All That. And lurking beneath it all is the uncomfortable truth that Cowherd won't let slide. Race does shape perception. It always has. Clark is being dragged for traits that male players get praised for. Swagger, confidence, trash talk, that's the lifeblood of basketball. But when Caitlyn does it, it's disrespectful. Even funnier, when opposing players guard her like she just stole their lunch money, that's somehow not a compliment. It's treated like retribution. She's 9th best PG in the league, but getting triple teamed at the half-court line, either the scouting report is a lie or the hate is doing squats. So when Cowherd says this is deeper than basketball, he's not wrong. This isn't just about a white girl with a bag, it's about a league having an identity crisis in real time. Do they embrace the attention and ride the wave, or do they gatekeep it to death?
How many NBA players are more famous than Caitlin Clark? LeBron, Steph, absolutely.
Maybe Durant.
That's what I wrote down. KD, maybe. Outside of LeBron and Steph, she is the most well-known basketball player currently playing in the United States.
Yes. And I don't think that's close. I think I might have said this to you last year, that I thought the most famous basketball player under 30 was Caitlin Clark. I don't think it's particularly close. She is demonstrably and inarguably more famous than all of this generation's NBA stars.
Because while everyone's busy questioning if Clark deserves the spotlight, no one's asking why the league only started glowing once she arrived. That's not a Caitlyn problem. That's a WNBA marketing department finally realizing what a TikTok account is. And if you think Nike didn't run those numbers before cutting the check, you might want to check your fantasy team. They saw what ESPN saw, what the NCAA saw, what every jersey manufacturer saw, that Clark doesn't just play the game, she moves the game. This isn't some Cinderella story, it's Game of Thrones, and Caitlyn didn't sneak into the castle. She kicked the doors in and brought a camera crew. But let's be clear, Caitlyn didn't create this mess, she just exposed it. She didn't ask to be the lightning rod, but now that she is, everyone has to reckon with the thunder. Is it race? Is it jealousy? Is it generational tension between players raised on grit and one raised on highlights? Yes, and definitely yes. And Colin Cowherd, he just said the quiet part loud. Because while the league debates how to market itself, the fans have already chosen. They tune in for Clark. They buy tickets for Clark, and that has less to do with color and more to do with clout.
How do you feel about the WNBA players bashing Caitlin Clark?
Okay, so I'm going to state some facts here and not opinions, because this is a controversial topic for some crazy reason. The WNBA is a subsidized league. What it means subsidized means is that the NBA basically gives their money so the WNBA could exist, because the WNBA does not produce any revenue.
They lose money, actually.
They lose money. Okay, so Caitlin Clark, a generational women's basketball player, finally comes around where people are like, oh my God, this girl is amazing. She gets drafted. She's putting up crazy numbers. She's entertaining. Ticket sales go up. Revenue goes up.
But the moment the applause turned into critique, it became clear. The issue isn't that Caitlyn is popular. It's that she's popular in spite of the rules everyone else had to follow. And Cowherd simply connected the dots. So while some WNBA vets keep side-eyeing her stats and others wait for her to earn her place, the rest of the world is watching Nike sign the checks and fans flood the stands. And if this is what hate looks like, Caitlyn might just want to lean into it. Because the more they boo, the more she banks. And the more Cowherd talks, the more the WNBA has to face the uncomfortable truth. This isn't just a game anymore. It's a mirror, and some folks clearly don't like what's looking back. The WNBA just got hit with a level of stardom it hasn't seen since ever. Caitlin Clark didn't knock on the door of the league. She kicked it off the hinges, signed it with Nike Inc., and posed for a billboard. And now, the real question isn't, is she good enough? It's, is the WNBA built to handle someone who brings this much cultural chaos in her duffel? Spoiler, the answer is, not yet. The league has always had stars. Talented, legendary, generational women who could cook anyone on the court. But what it hasn't had, until now, is a player who instantly hijacks every headline, dominates every highlight reel, and turns every game into a national event. Clark brought eyeballs, debate, and drama by the truckload. And instead of grabbing popcorn and riding the wave, parts of the league look like they're plotting her downfall in group chats.
Nike, we need to talk about Caitlin Clark. Let's you and me talk about Caitlin Clark since you refuse to talk about Caitlin Clark. And I care deeply about you. I spent over a decade in your marketing organization. I spent several years trying to get into your organization. And it's been 3 years since I left your company. I'm just here as a friend. I care about you. I want to show you 2 different charts here. One, your stock price since 2021. It is down nearly 60%. Your executives and the people who are making these decisions, their stock options are worthless. Meanwhile, you have the single biggest needle mover in all of American sports since Michael Jordan, and you have somehow convinced yourself that you need to slow play this.
See, the WNBA has always liked its stars a certain way. Powerful, but not polarizing. Confident, but not cocky. Visible, but not too mainstream. Clark doesn't fit in that neat little box. She's not waiting to earn attention through a slow grind of league dues. She came in with college records, record-shattering viewership, and a Nike deal so fat it made veteran contracts look like lunch stipends. And that, right there, is the problem. Because when you're the new kid with all the toys, the older kids don't invite you to play. They accuse you of skipping the line. And if you also happen to be white in a league that's overwhelmingly black and historically ignored by mainstream media until you showed up, now you're not just skipping the line, you're being accused of redesigning the whole damn amusement park. It's not just about jealousy, it's about disrupted hierarchies. You've got players who've been in the league 7 to 10 years, still hustling for national attention, getting overshadowed overnight. There's a generation gap forming faster than a fast break. One side says, she hasn't proven anything yet. The other says, she's already done more for the league's visibility than a decade of WNBA marketing. Neither side is lying, but both are yelling.
A contract in the Big Three making millions of dollars to go make $75,000 a year in the WNBA.
Yeah.
Okay? Now you go on ESPN and all these things, and all these, her peers in the WNBA are trashing her and demeaning her, saying, oh, why is she getting all this attention? She's better than you. Like, I don't understand, like, why, like, facts and opinion, like, this is not an opinion. Caitlin Clark's putting up better numbers than you guys ever did, and she's bringing the league attention, which is great for all the women coming up in the world that want to play basketball.
And then comes Cowherd, throwing a Molotov cocktail made of race, ratings, and real talk. He's not asking politely. He's kicking down the debate door like it owes him money. What if the backlash against Caitlin isn't just competitiveness, but bias? What if the cold shoulder isn't about her game, but what her skin color represents in a league that's long been ignored by the same media, now tripping over themselves to praise her? It's uncomfortable. It should be. Because maybe Caitlin isn't the problem. Maybe she's the mirror, reflecting all the league's fractures, insecurities, and dysfunctions. A league that wants growth, but isn't sure how to handle what growth actually looks like. And now here comes the real kicker. Imagine if this entire situation were flipped. Picture Aja Wilson fresh out of college with a $100 million Nike deal, dominating ESPN and pulling in fans like it's Coachella season. And imagine white WNBA players subtweeting her, dismissing her as hype, and saying she hasn't earned it. You already know the media would be setting up tents outside ESPN, Twitter would explode, and every blue check would be calling out the double standard by breakfast. So is this jealousy or justice? Meritocracy or media bias? Maybe it's all of the above, shaken and stirred into one messy cocktail of ego, race, money, and legacy. But one thing's for sure, Caitlin Clark didn't break the league. She just exposed all the cracks.